Welcome, truth seekers and story lovers, to a tale that will challenge everything you thought you knew about fate, family, and the hidden sacrifices that define us. Have you ever considered how easily a single lie, whispered in the shadows, can unravel years of love, hope, and an entire future? Or how a moment of raw heroism, born from instinct, can unwittingly bridge a chasm of abandonment and heartbreak? Today, we delve into a narrative so profoundly interwoven with the threads of destiny and deception that it feels ripped from the pages of an ancient epic. Yet it's a story playing out in our modern world. It's about a man, a hero in uniform, whose greatest act of courage revealed a truth far more terrifying and beautiful than any fire he'd ever faced. And it's about a woman, a warrior in her own right, whose resilience forged an unbreakable family against all odds, only to find the past and her former love crashing back into her present. This isn't just a story. It's a profound exploration of what it means to be a parent, a partner, and ultimately a human being grappling with the crushing weight of regret and the incredible power of redemption. We'll examine the insidious nature of familial manipulation, the agonizing journey of rebuilding trust, and the unwavering spirit of children who, against all logic, seem to recognize their true father even before he does. Prepare yourselves, because this isn't merely a recounting of events, it's a deep dive into the human heart, a dissection of the complex psychology of betrayal and forgiveness, and a testament to the idea that some bonds are simply too powerful to be severed, no matter how much time or how many lies stand between them. What defines a family? Is it blood, or is it the unwavering commitment to show up, to fight, and to love, even when it costs you everything? Let's uncover the extraordinary truth together. Our story ignites in the heart of a raging inferno, a scene of chaos and despair where seconds feel like hours, and every breath is a desperate fight for survival. Imagine the deafening roar of flames, the acrid bite of smoke, the panicked screams cutting through the night. This is where we meet Darius King, a firefighter. But not just any firefighter, he's a captain, a seasoned veteran of Engine 14, a man whose life is dedicated to running into the danger that everyone else flees. He's a symbol of hope amidst destruction, a beacon of courage when all seems lost. On this particular night, the target of the fire's fury is a sprawling mansion, its opulent facade now a skeletal wreck, consumed by an insatiable blaze. The structural integrity is compromised, the air thick with the promise of collapse. Any sane person would retreat, reassess, but Darius is fueled by an urgent, primal fear. A small voice, desperate and cutting through the inferno's roar, has just changed everything. "Sir, please, my little brothers, they're still inside." The speaker is a little girl, Malia. Her small form, drenched from the fire truck's spray, her cheeks streaked with ash, clings to Darius's pant leg, her voice a fragile testament to unimaginable courage. This scene, often repeated in real-life emergencies, highlights the extraordinary bravery of children in crisis. They are often the last line of defense, the first to raise an alarm, and sometimes, as in Malia's case, the reluctant witnesses to horror, forced to grow up in an instant. Her plea isn't just a cry for help. It's a demand for action, a direct appeal that bypasses protocol and strikes directly at Darius's core. "Back up, sweetheart. You can't be this close to the house," Darius says, his voice firm, projecting authority even amidst the cacophony. He motions to a teammate, a standard procedure to ensure the safety of bystanders. But Malia is not just any bystander. She represents pure, unadulterated resolve. She won't let go. Her tiny hands are surprisingly strong, her grip a silent, desperate prayer. "Please, sir. They're only 5. We were sleeping, and then the smoke came." The words spill out, punctuated by heart-wrenching sobs and hiccups, painting a vivid picture of sudden terror in the dead of night. She recounts pulling her brothers to the living room only for them, in a childlike quest for comfort, to return for a forgotten bunny, a small, innocent act with devastating consequences. "I couldn't get them out," she sobs, her voice breaking. Darius freezes, children inside, alone, 5 years old. The implications hit him like a physical blow, bypassing his training and striking directly at his humanity. The fire, which had seemed a controllable beast moments ago, now morphs into a monstrous entity, threatening innocent lives. Half the house is already gone, swallowed by greedy flames. The front facade collapsed minutes prior, a stark reminder of the imminent danger. The heat is unbearable, a suffocating blanket that promises incineration. Smoke chokes the air, turning visibility into a nightmarish swirling blackness. "Chief!" a colleague yells, his voice strained. "We're losing the back window. Whole structure's unstable." The rational part of Darius's brain, the part honed by years of rigorous training, screams for caution, for strategic withdrawal. The risk is astronomical. Entering now would be suicidal. But the image of two 5-year-olds, alone in that fiery abyss, propelled by their sister's desperate plea, overrides all logic. It's an instinct deeper than any protocol, a gut feeling that transcends the professional duty and taps into something profoundly personal. "Mask now!" he barks, the words ripping through the chaos, a command directed as much at himself as at his gear. In a flash, he's resuited, his movements swift, almost feral. He ignores the screams from his team, the urgent pleas for him to reconsider. Their shouts are just background noise to the urgent internal drumbeat driving him forward. He sprints towards the side entry, a fleeting shadow against the backdrop of orange and black. He kicks down a flimsy back door, the wood splintering under the force, a desperate act of defiance against the crushing weight of the inferno. He ducks under falling drywall, pushing deeper into the blackness, into the very maw of the beast. The smoke, a living, clawing entity, attacks his throat even through the respirator. His vision is almost non-existent, reduced to a terrifying tunnel of indistinct shapes and ominous glow. "Hello!" he shouts, his voice echoing eerily in the collapsing structure. "Somebody call out!" A faint whimper, fragile and desperate, answers him, coming from behind what he assumes is the dining table. It's a small sound, almost lost in the roar, but it's a lifeline. "Stay right there! I'm coming to get you!" He yells back, his voice thick with adrenaline and determination. He drops to his knees, crawling beneath a collapsed ceiling beam, the scorched debris crunching under his weight. Under the dining table, amidst the rubble and swirling smoke, he finds them, two small boys, Micah and Miles, clinging to each other in a desperate embrace. One has his foot twisted in a fallen lamp cord, a small, painful detail that speaks volumes of their terror. The other, Miles, is sobbing, clutching a torn bunny rabbit to his chest, the very object that had drawn them back into the nightmare. It's a heartbreaking sight, a poignant tableau of childhood innocence caught in the jaws of adult horror. Darius's heart aches, a profound, almost inexplicable ache that goes beyond the professional duty of a rescuer. "It's okay. I got you now," he reassures them, his voice gruff but tender. There's no time to untangle the cord, no luxury for gentle movements. The roof is buckling, the structure groaning in protest. Every second is a gamble against total collapse. He scoops both boys up, an act of sheer strength and desperation. The child screams as his ankle twists, a sharp, piercing sound that cuts through the roar of the fire. Darius grits his teeth, ignoring the pain, his own and the child's, and runs. Flames lick down the hallway, an inferno chasing his heels. The roof buckles violently behind him, threatening to swallow them whole. "Move! Move!" voices scream from outside, his team's frantic calls echoing his own desperate thoughts. He bursts out the back, a searing explosion of heat and light crashing to the ground as a chunk of the roof explodes above him. His teammates rush in, a surge of adrenaline-fueled relief, dragging him and the boys to safety, away from the consuming maw of the mansion. Malia, who had been waiting in agonizing suspense, runs towards them, nearly tripping over herself in her haste. "Micah! Miles! You're okay!" She throws her arms around her brothers, a fierce, protective embrace, a testament to her earlier bravery. Darius pulls off his helmet, panting heavily, drenched in sweat and smoke, his body screaming in protest, his lungs burning. And then he looks at them, truly looks at them, the triplets, not just 2 boys and a girl, but 3 small reflections of something he couldn't quite place. Same eyes, deep brown, shimmering with residual fear but also relief. Same deep brown skin, same curly textures, tight coils falling over their little foreheads. Something hits him in the chest, hard, a strange, unfamiliar tremor. He doesn't understand why, but as they cling together, crying tears of relief and exhaustion, he can't look away. It's an almost magnetic pull, a feeling of recognition that defies logic. He feels like he's seen them before, felt them before. But how could that be? He doesn't know their names, beyond what Malia cried out. He doesn't know their mother. He doesn't even know who lived in that burning house, and yet his heart is pounding like it has recognized something his brain hasn't, a deep, resonant echo from a forgotten past. This inexplicable connection, a gut feeling that transcends the immediate heroism, is the first subtle hint that this rescue is far more than just another day on the job for Darius King. It's a collision with his own history, a karmic twist that will unravel the truth of his life. Later that night, the city sleeps, but for Darius King, sleep is an alien concept. Back at the fire station, the adrenaline has faded, replaced by a deep-seated unease. He sits alone in the locker room, the metallic tang of sweat and smoke still clinging to him, staring at his reflection in the dull chrome of his locker. His face is streaked with soot, a map of the night's trauma. His arms are bruised, testament to the struggle against falling debris and searing heat. But it's not the physical pain that has him rattled. It's the girl's voice. "Sir, please, my brothers." That desperate plea, those innocent faces, have branded themselves onto his consciousness. He clenches his jaw. Those kids were far too young to be on their own like that, to face such terror without an adult's protection. And that little girl, Malia, so brave, so protective, a fierce guardian in miniature. She reminded him of someone he'd buried deep in his memory, a ghost of a past love he'd thought long forgotten. He leans back against the cold metal bench, exhaustion seeping into his bones, and looks up at the sterile ceiling as if seeking answers in the fluorescent hum. 5 years, he whispers, the words tasting like ash and regret. It's been 5 damn years since I saw her. And the cruelest irony? He didn't even know why she disappeared. This isn't just a fleeting thought. It's the profound ache of an unresolved past, a question mark that has haunted him for half a decade. Meanwhile, across town, in the sterile, hushed environment of the pediatric wing of the city hospital, a different kind of vigil is unfolding. Amara Ellis holds her children tightly, her heart a fragile thing, oscillating between terror and profound relief. Malia lies curled up beside her, her earlier bravery now replaced by the deep, peaceful sleep of exhaustion. Micah and Miles are asleep on the other hospital bed, their small chests rising and falling rhythmically, signs of life that Amara had feared might never return. "God, thank you for saving them," Amara whispers. Tears, not of sorrow, but of profound gratitude, silently tracing paths down her soot-stained face. She is a single mother, a warrior in her own right, accustomed to fighting battles alone. At this moment, she has no idea who the firefighter was, the hero who plunged into the inferno to save her world. Not yet. But when she does, her world will not just shift. It will come undone, shattering the carefully constructed walls she'd built around her heart. Amara Ellis. The nurse's voice is gentle, a soft counterpoint to the thundering in Amara's chest. Amara stands, her heart a frantic drumbeat against her ribs, tightening her hold on Malia's small hand. "Yes, ma'am," she answers, her voice a little shaky, a little hoarse. "Your boys are stable. Minor smoke inhalation, no burns. They'll be discharged by morning," the nurse says with a reassuring smile, a balm to Amara's frayed nerves. "But if I may say, your little girl, she's the reason they're alive. Brave thing. And the firefighter who pulled them out, he's a real hero." Amara forces a shaky smile, the gratitude bubbling to the surface. "Can you tell me his name?" she asks quietly, a simple question with monumental implications. "Darius King. You might have heard of him. Captain of Engine 14. He's been with the city for 10 years now." Amara's breath catches in her throat. Darius. King. The name, once a sweet melody, now resonates like a death knell. It feels like the walls of the hospital room cave in around her, the sterile white blurring into a dizzying vortex. Her vision blurs, not from tears, but from the sudden, overwhelming rush of a past she thought buried forever. She doesn't say a word, can't form one. She simply gives a small, almost imperceptible nod and walks back into the room, her knees trembling uncontrollably, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Micah and Miles are curled up in their hospital bed, a nurse quietly checking their oxygen levels. Malia sits beside them, diligently coloring on a provided activity sheet, her innocence a stark contrast to the storm raging within her mother. "Mama, do you think that fireman got hurt?" she asks, her eyes wide with a child's concern. "No, baby, I think he's okay," Amara replies, her voice an automatic, reassuring murmur as she runs her hand through her daughter's braids. She wants to believe it, needs to believe it, not just for Malia's sake, but for her own. But right now, her entire past has just been thrown back in her face with the force of a tidal wave. Darius. The man she had loved with a fierce, unwavering devotion. The man who never showed up, never called, who simply disappeared from her life the moment she told his mother she was pregnant 5 years ago. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a cruel twist of fate, a brutal reminder of a betrayal that had scarred her deeply. The hero who saved her children was also the villain who abandoned them. The man who had once been her future was now a ghost from her past, materialized in the most unexpected and agonizing way. The universe, it seemed, had a darkly ironic sense of humor. To truly understand Amara's anguish, we must journey back 5 years, to the grand, imposing King estate. This wasn't just a house. It was a fortress, a symbol of old money, power, and privilege. Amara, then a hopeful young woman, stood in its opulent foyer, her hands shaking as she clutched her medical report. The paper wasn't just a diagnosis. It was the blueprint of a future she dreamed of sharing with Darius. She had driven herself there on a stormy evening, her second-hand car, a symbol of her own humble beginnings, stalling 3 times on the highway, each sputter a premonition of the struggle ahead. "I need to speak with Darius," she had told his mother, Diane King, a woman whose demeanor was as cold and unyielding as the marble floors beneath them. Amara's smile was hopeful, innocent, brimming with the naive optimism of first love. "It's important." But Diane King looked at her not as a future daughter-in-law, not as the mother of her grandchildren, but like she was a bug under her heel. It's a chilling analogy, perfectly capturing the disdain and dehumanization Amara faced. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a calculated act of social warfare. Diane's words, delivered with surgical precision, cut deeper than any physical wound. "Darius is going into the Academy's elite rescue unit. He doesn't need distractions from girls like you." "Girls like me?" Amara asked, stunned, the hopeful smile dissolving into raw disbelief. The implication was clear. Amara, with her modest background, her ambition tempered by necessity, was seen as an impediment, a stain on the King family's pristine legacy. "You think just because you went to the same college you're good enough? You're not. And he doesn't want a baby. He told me that himself." This was the lie, the poison meticulously injected into the nascent hope of Amara's heart. "That's a lie!" Amara had cried, her voice cracking with the force of her conviction. "He loves me. We talked about kids someday." But Diane's smile, cold and devoid of warmth, never reached her eyes. "He changed his mind. Men do that." It was a cynical, manipulative dismissal, designed to extinguish any spark of resistance. "Where is he?" Amara pleaded, her voice a desperate whisper. "Gone. Assigned out of state. He left this morning." Then came the final, brutal stroke. Diane extended a crisp white envelope, a gesture of charity masking an act of profound cruelty. "Take this for your trouble and don't come back." Amara had stared at the cash, a staggering $10,000, blood money, as she rightly perceived it. It wasn't an offer of help. It was a transaction, a demand for her to erase herself and her unborn children from the King family narrative. Amara, despite her desperate situation, left without taking a cent. Her pride, though bruised and bleeding, remained intact. She walked away with nothing but her dignity and the heavy burden of an uncertain future. The implications of Diane's actions are staggering. This isn't just a simple parental disapproval. It's a deliberate act of parental alienation, a devastating manipulation that tore a family apart before it even had a chance to form. This kind of intervention, though extreme, echoes countless real-life scenarios where parents, blinded by perceived class differences, societal expectations, or personal prejudices, interfere in their adult children's romantic lives, often with tragic consequences. It raises profound questions about privilege, control, and the moral boundaries of protecting one's legacy. Was Diane truly protecting Darius? Or was she safeguarding her own idealized vision of his future, heedless of the human cost? Back in the hospital room, Amara blinks away the searing memory. The intervening 5 years have been a blur of relentless struggle. She had raised her babies alone, utterly bereft of help or support. She worked 3 jobs, sacrificing nights of sleep, giving up her own dreams so her children could eat, could have a semblance of a normal life. This is the reality for countless single parents, a testament to incredible resilience, but also a harsh indictment of a society that often fails to provide adequate support systems. And now, Darius King, savior of the city, was their hero. Her hands clench into fists, the bitterness a hot, surging tide. He didn't deserve that title, not from them, not from her. The irony is a cruel twist of the knife, reminding her of the man who unwittingly saved her children, but unknowingly abandoned her. The next morning, as they pack up to leave the hospital, Malia, ever the innocent, asks sweetly, "Mommy, can we give the fireman a thank you card?" Amara hesitates, the question a fresh jab to her already wounded heart. "We don't even know where to find him, baby." But children, with their uncanny ability to absorb information, are often one step ahead. "The nurse said he's at Station 14, Micah pipes in, his voice bright with the simple joy of gratitude. "Yeah, and I drew a picture of us holding hands with him," Miles adds proudly, holding up a scribbled crayon drawing. Amara stares at it. 3 tiny figures and a tall man in a red helmet. Her heart, already fractured, feels like it cracks down the middle. How could she deny her children this simple act of gratitude, even if it meant confronting her deepest pain? 2 hours later, Amara stands across the street from Station 14. Her resolve is crumbling. "Mommy, can we go give this to him now?" Malia asks, eager. "You go," Amara whispers, pushing the kids gently forward. She can't bring herself to cross that threshold, to face him directly. The children, oblivious to the unspoken history, run across to the station, their small voices ringing out, "Mr. Fireman, we have something for you!" Darius is in the middle of washing the engine, the mundane task a stark contrast to the heroics of the night before. He turns, and the smile he gives the kids is natural, easy, pure, the unguarded joy of a man who loves children. But then his eyes lift, drawn by an unseen force, and he sees her. Amara. He blinks, unsure, as if seeing a ghost. His smile falters, then vanishes entirely. She stands there, arms crossed, black curls loose, her skin glowing against the sunlight, her expression guarded, a fortress of pain and defiance. "Amara," he murmurs, his voice barely a breath. She says nothing. She only turns, a slow, deliberate movement, walks away, and gets back into her car, leaving Darius reeling. A cold chill ripples through his chest as the kids run back, empty-handed and confused, their innocent faces reflecting the sudden shift in atmosphere. Who was she?" he whispers to himself, the question more a desperate plea for clarity than a genuine inquiry. But deep inside, he already knows. The feeling of recognition from the fire, the inexplicable connection to the triplets, now coalesces into a terrifying, undeniable truth. His past, his lost love, the woman who had haunted his memories, just reappeared, and she was clearly angry. "You look like you've seen a ghost, bro." Marcus, one of Darius's fellow firefighters, claps him on the back, jarring him from his stupor. Darius doesn't answer. He just keeps staring at the corner where she had stood, Amara, a name that now holds a universe of questions and accusations. 5 years. 5 years since he last saw her face, 5 years since she vanished without a word. And now, out of nowhere, she showed up, her face the same, but her eyes sharper, angrier. And those kids, the undeniable resemblance. No, it couldn't be. He shakes his head, as if to dislodge the impossible thought, brushing sweat off his brow. But the seed of doubt, of truth, has been firmly planted. The next day, the weight of the past clings to Amara like a shroud. She drops the kids off at her neighbor's apartment, a brief respite from the relentless demands of single motherhood, and walks down the cracked pavement toward the community grocery store. The sun is brutal, beating down on her, but her nerves are worse, frayed and raw. She's so lost in her own thoughts, replaying the encounter at the fire station, that she doesn't see the fire truck idling by the hydrant until she turns the corner and stops cold. Darius is leaning against the side panel, a water bottle in hand, watching her with an unnerving intensity, as if he'd been waiting for her. "Amara," he says, his voice a low, hesitant murmur. She almost turns around, a primal urge to flee, but her pride, that fierce, unyielding core of her being, holds her in place. "Captain King," she replies, her voice clipped, sharp, a deliberate formality designed to maintain distance. "I didn't know it was you at the hospital. Not until I saw your face yesterday." Her words are a shield, an attempt to control the narrative. She crosses her arms, her posture stiff with defiance. "Didn't know I existed for the last 5 years either, huh?" The bitterness is palpable, a poison that has festered for half a decade. His jaw tenses, the casual ease of a moment ago evaporating. "What happened? Why'd you leave?" His questions are blunt, born of his own confusion and hurt, revealing his profound ignorance. But Amara laughs, a sound devoid of humor, laced with a potent mix of pain and fury. "Why'd I leave? I showed up at your parents' house to tell you I was pregnant. Your mama said you were done with me, gone. She gave me money to disappear." Darius stares, stunned, silent. The revelation hits him like a physical blow, stripping away his carefully constructed reality. His mother, the queen of their pristine, respectable family, the architect of this elaborate lie. "She told you I left?" he whispers, his voice barely audible, a profound crack in his world. "You mean you didn't?" Amara snaps back, her anger reaching a crescendo, years of suppressed pain finally erupting. "No, I never even knew you were pregnant. You think I'd disappear on you like that? On my child?" The truth, raw and brutal, hits Amara like a punch. He wasn't lying. His eyes, clear and filled with genuine shock and sorrow, said everything. He was just as much a victim of Diane's manipulation as she was. This moment is a stark illustration of how easily one person's lie can create an entire false reality for others, twisting perceptions and severing bonds. It's a powerful narrative on the dangers of assuming, of not seeking answers directly from the source. The years of resentment, of bitterness, of believing he had callously abandoned her, now crumble, replaced by a terrifying new understanding. He hadn't left her. He had been made to leave her. But understanding doesn't erase what she'd lived through. It doesn't magically heal the wounds or bring back the lost years. "It's too late, Darius," she whispers, the anger receding, replaced by a profound, desolate sadness. "They're 5 years old. You weren't there. I was." These words are heavy with the weight of sacrifice, of sleepless nights, of dreams deferred. They encapsulate the immeasurable effort of a single mother building a life from scratch, without support, without the partner she believed would be by her side. Darius steps forward, compelled by an invisible force, his voice thick with emotion. Those kids I saved. Those were mine." The realization is a thunderclap, connecting the inexplicable pull he felt in the burning house with this shattering truth. His heroism, his instinct to save, had been directed at his own flesh and blood, a cosmic irony of epic proportions. Amara's eyes well up, but she turns her head before the tears can fall, fiercely guarding her vulnerability. "Their names are Micah, Miles, and Malia. And yes, they're yours, whether you want them or not." She turns to leave, the conversation, the confrontation, too raw, too painful to continue. "Wait!" he calls out, his voice hoarse, desperate to cling to this fragile thread of truth. "Why didn't you try to find me after?" She freezes, the question hanging heavy in the humid air, demanding an answer she hadn't dared to voice in years. Because I was tired of begging to be loved by a man whose family saw me as disposable. The words are a sharp, bitter truth, cutting through the confusion, revealing the deep-seated pain of classism and social prejudice that had dictated her abandonment. It wasn't just Darius who had let her down. It was his entire world, embodied by his mother's callous disregard. This encounter is a powerful testament to the long-lasting impact of social stratification and the insidious ways it can infiltrate and destroy personal relationships. That night, Darius sits on his apartment balcony, a bottle of water in one hand, a faded photo of him and Amara from college in the other. They are smiling in that photo, young, happy, in love, oblivious to the cruel hand fate, or rather his mother, would play. He thinks back to the day he left for the academy assignment, the day his life veered off course, unknowingly guided by a lie. His mother had told him Amara was too focused on school, that she needed space, that she wasn't serious about building a life. He believed her. He never heard that Amara tried to visit, never saw a letter, never got a call. He had been manipulated, his trust in his mother absolute. Now, 5 years later, he finds out he's a father to 3 children, and he missed every single moment. The first steps, the first words, the first fevers, the first birthdays. The grief is overwhelming, a hollow ache that resonates deep within his chest. It's a profound realization of stolen time, of an irreplaceable loss that no amount of future presence can fully mend. The next morning, a subtle ripple of hope began to stir. Amara opened her classroom door, preparing for another day of teaching, when she found a surprise waiting. 3 backpacks, brand new, fully packed with supplies. A note was tucked inside one of them. For Micah, Miles, and Malia. If I can't take back the lost years, at least let me help now. Darius. Amara held the note, her hands trembling, her throat tightening with a complex mix of emotions. She hadn't told him where the kids went to school, but somehow he found out. This small, practical gesture, devoid of grand pronouncements, spoke volumes. It was Darius's first tentative step toward earning his place, not with words, but with action. Meanwhile, at the fire station, Darius stared at the phone number scribbled on the back of the kid's crayon drawing. He hadn't called yet, couldn't bring himself to. The enormity of the revelation, the weight of being a father to 3 children he never knew, was overwhelming. He needed to be sure. His instincts screamed the truth, but years of institutionalized skepticism, of needing concrete evidence to justify a decision, compelled him to seek absolute certainty. So he grabbed his phone, scrolled to an old contact, and called a private clinic. "Hi, I need a paternity test for me and 3 children. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" The nurse's gentle question was filled with an understanding of the gravity of his request. Darius stood in the quiet clinic hallway, his jaw tight, his eyes stormy, betraying the turmoil within. "Yes." His voice was gravel, raw with emotion. "I need to know for sure." The need for certainty, for a definitive answer, was paramount. He could still see their faces in his mind, Micah's shy smile, Miles's curious stare, Malia's fierce little eyes, the way they held each other, that primal, unbreakable sibling bond, the way his heart had thundered the moment they hugged him after the fire. It didn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense, but deep inside, something screamed that it did. The biological confirmation was just a formality. His soul already knew. 2 days earlier, driven by an unshakable compulsion, he'd parked down the block from Amara's apartment, just watching. He didn't go up, didn't knock. He only wanted to see them, to observe them in their natural habitat, to confirm what his heart already suspected. From his truck, he saw the front door open. Amara stepped out in a worn denim jacket, adjusting the straps on Malia's backpack. The girl clung to her side, a small anchor. Then came the boys. Micah with a lunch bag, Miles running and spinning in a circle, his shoelaces untied, a whirlwind of boundless energy. They looked like a unit, a perfectly synchronized, self-sufficient family, like they'd raised each other, like they didn't have a father, because they didn't. Not until now. Darius gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He'd missed all of it. The first steps, the first words, the first fevers, the first birthdays, the mundane, miraculous moments that define parenthood. He watched Amara kneel down to fix Miles's laces, her hand moving gently over his curls, a simple act of maternal tenderness. And suddenly, Darius felt it. Something hollow cracking open in his chest, a kind of grief he didn't have a name for, a profound sorrow for lost time and missed connections. It was the realization that he wasn't just a man who had loved and lost. He was a man who had unknowingly been stripped of the most fundamental joy: fatherhood. Back at the clinic, Darius sat in the waiting room, bouncing his knee nervously, his hands clasped tightly. The results wouldn't be ready for a few more days, but he already knew. Every instinct in his body, firefighter, man, soul, told him the truth. This was more than just a genetic test. It was a confirmation of a bond that had defied years of separation and intentional deceit. Meanwhile, at her small apartment, Amara was folding laundry, a familiar, comforting routine in her chaotic life, when Malia walked in holding a drawing. "Mommy, is this us?" she asked, pointing to the crayon figures. Amara smiled, a gentle, tired curve of her lips. "Yeah, baby, that's you, your brothers, and me." "Where's Daddy?" Malia asked quietly, the innocence of the question masking its profound impact. Amara froze, the folded laundry suspended in her hands. "Why doesn't our daddy live with us?" She sat down slowly, pulling her daughter into her lap, searching for the right words to explain a truth that was still raw and unfolding. "Because life didn't go the way we planned, but you're not missing anything, okay? You've got me and your brothers. That's enough." But even as she said it, Amara knew it wasn't entirely true. Darius's face had returned to her dreams, to her thoughts, a persistent, unwelcome presence. Her heart, though guarded, wasn't made of stone. The walls she had built were beginning to show cracks, exposed to the light of a truth she could no longer deny. The return of Darius was not just a personal crisis. It was a challenge to her entire identity as a self-sufficient single mother. The echoes of the past often resonate loudest in the quiet moments. Later that night, Darius stood on his porch, staring at a dusty box labeled "College Memories." He hadn't opened it in years, afraid of stirring dormant emotions, of confronting a life that felt irrevocably lost. Inside was the photo he kept on his phone, the one of him and Amara, smiling and hopeful. But there was more. Letters Amara had written before things fell apart. Tender notes tucked into his bag when he was training, a handmade card for his birthday. And then a small, innocent baby onesie. He'd forgotten he once told her he wanted kids. "A little girl with your smile," he'd whispered back then, "and twin boys who act like me." He thought it was just a dream, a youthful fantasy. Now he knew. He already had them. They were real, and he had missed everything. The weight of that realization, the profound grief for lost time, settled deep in his soul. This wasn't just about making up for lost years. It was about reclaiming a fundamental part of his identity, a paternal bond that had been cruelly stolen. The next morning, Amara found herself at the community food bank where she volunteered on weekends, a testament to her giving spirit even amidst her own struggles. As she handed out meal bags, a familiar voice called her name. She turned, and her breath caught in her chest. Darius. He wore jeans and a gray fire department t-shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing burn-scarred forearms, a stark reminder of his true profession, of his inherent heroism. He held a paper bag of donations and a shy, almost nervous smile. "I want to help," he said simply, a quiet offer of support that spoke volumes. Amara stared at him, unsure how to react. He didn't say anything else, just walked over and started passing out food, seamlessly integrating himself into the rhythm of the place. All morning they worked side by side in silence, a fragile truce in their complex history. Their truce was shattered delightfully by the arrival of Malia and the boys. "Mr. Fireman!" they shouted in unison, their small voices brimming with adoration. Darius knelt, arms open, and all three kids barreled into his chest, a whirlwind of joyful reunion. Micah tugged on his sleeve. "Can you come to career day at school? My teacher said we need real-life heroes." Darius looked up at Amara, a silent question in his eyes. She didn't speak, but she didn't say no. Her silence was a hesitant invitation, a small crack in her formidable defenses. The children's unfiltered love for Darius was a powerful force, one she found increasingly difficult to resist. Back at the clinic 3 days later, the doctor handed him the envelope. Darius tore it open with shaking fingers, his heart thundering in his ears. And there it was. Micah Ellis, 99.99%. Match. Miles Ellis, 99.99%. Match. Malia Ellis, 99.99%. Match. Darius sank into the chair, holding the results to his chest like they were oxygen, the scientific confirmation validating what his heart already knew. Tears, hot and urgent, slipped from the corners of his eyes. He wasn't just some fireman anymore. He was their father. This moment, often dramatized in fiction, holds a profound truth for many real-life individuals who discover lost family members. The immediate, overwhelming validation of a connection that felt destined. "You're saying they're yours?" Amara's voice was low but sharp, like broken glass when he presented the results. Her arms were crossed tightly, her posture stiff with guarded defiance. They stood outside her apartment building, the sun dipping low in the horizon behind them, casting golden streaks across the cracked concrete steps. Darius held out the manila envelope, not moving closer. He knew better than to touch her without permission, to violate the fragile boundaries she had erected. "I didn't come here to start anything. I just want you to see the results." Amara stared at the envelope like it was a venomous snake, a repository of both truth and pain. Slowly she took it. Her eyes skimmed the documents, then again, dissecting each word. She didn't breathe, not until the words burned into her skull. Micah Ellis, 99.99% match. Miles Ellis, 99.99% match. Malia Ellis, 99.99% match. Her throat tightened, a lump of unresolved emotion. "So now you believe me?" she asked, the accusation heavy in her tone. Darius flinched, the raw pain of her words striking home. "It's not that I didn't believe you. I just needed to face it, to stop doubting, to know. And now I do." Amara folded the envelope and tucked it under her arm, the scientific proof now a tangible weight. "You know what? It doesn't change," she said quietly, her voice tinged with the weary resolve of someone who had fought too many battles alone. 5 birthdays, 3 hospital stays, 6 rent notices, 15 nights with no power, every damn tear they shed, asking why they didn't have a dad like the other kids. Her words painted a stark, unflinching picture of her lonely struggle, a testament to her unwavering love and sacrifice. Darius looked down, the weight of her words crushing him. "I know I wasn't there, Amara, but I didn't leave you. I didn't know." "Your mother knew." Her voice rose, face tightening with fury, the memory of Diane's cruel deception still fresh and painful. "And that's all that mattered." He closed the distance between them just a little, a cautious step into the chasm of their shared history. "You think I would have let you raise them alone if I knew? That I would have let you suffer through this?" She stared at him for a long, bitter moment, her eyes reflecting years of hurt. "You let me suffer by trusting her over me." Silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. Darius turned away, dragging a hand through his short curls, the gesture one of profound anguish. His voice dropped low, trembling with a vulnerability she hadn't seen in years. "She told me you left to be with someone else, that you said you weren't ready for a real life, that you ghosted me. I was angry, hurt, and then I got called to train in Louisiana. I didn't look back because I thought you didn't want me anymore." His words were a mirror image of her own experience, a testament to the devastating effectiveness of Diane's lies. Amara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, a mix of empathy and continued resentment. "You believed her. That's the part I can't forgive. You believed her without ever hearing me out." His head dropped. "She never told me you came by. She never told me you were pregnant. She lied. I should have seen it, but I didn't." "You didn't want to," she countered, her words landing like slaps. But she wasn't wrong. The wind picked up around them, a whisper of the emotional storm raging between them. Darius looked back at her. Her beauty was more grounded now, less girl next door, more warrior mother. Her curves were fuller, her face matured, etched with the lines of experience and resilience. The fire in her eyes was a little darker, tempered by pain, but not extinguished. She wasn't the same Amara, and neither was he. "I want to be in their lives." His voice was softer now, a plea. "I know I can't make up for 5 years, but I want to start where I can. That's not up to me." Darius blinked, confused. "Then who?" "Them." Amara held his gaze, her words hitting like a gut punch, powerful and undeniable. "They decide who's family, not some DNA test. Not me, not even you." He nodded slowly, the truth of her words resonating deeply. This wasn't about his needs or his desire for redemption. It was about the children. "Then I'll show them who I am," he vowed, his voice firm, resolute. "Not because I want to feel better, but because they deserve to know the truth and to know their father didn't walk away." She studied him, searching for any hint of insincerity. There was a genuine sincerity in his face, a brokenness she hadn't seen before, but also a newfound determination. "Then start with the truth," she said coldly, a final challenge. "Go ask your mother what else she lied about, because I guarantee you there's more under those ashes." The seed of suspicion, once sown by Diane, now bloomed into a mandate for Darius. The path to redemption would begin not with grand gestures, but with an agonizing excavation of his own family's deceit. Later that evening, Darius sat parked outside the King family estate, an immaculate white brick colonial that sat like a queen on a throne in the highlands of Fairview. It was a monument to wealth and privilege, a stark contrast to the small apartment Amara and the children called home. He hadn't been here in 2 years, not since his last argument with his mother over his choice to remain a firefighter instead of moving into corporate property development. A choice that now seemed prophetically right. The argument then had been about his career path. Now, it was about the very foundation of his life. Standing on the porch, he rang the bell. The sound echoed not just through the opulent house, but like thunder in his chest, a tremor of apprehension and righteous anger. The door opened. Diane King, regal and perfectly poised in a silk blouse and cream slacks, froze when she saw him, her practiced smile tight and brittle. "Darius," she said, feigning surprise, her voice a smooth veneer over hidden tension. "What a surprise." "We need to talk," he stated, his voice devoid of filial deference, firm with a resolve born of profound betrayal. Inside the sitting room, the walls were still decorated with family portraits and Christian art, a facade of piety and familial harmony. Everything was pristine, everything fake. "I know, Mom," Darius said flatly, cutting through her pretense with the precision of a surgeon. Diane blinked, her carefully constructed composure melting away, revealing a flicker of fear. "Now what? That Amara came to see you, that she was pregnant, that you sent her away and lied to me." Diane's mouth parted slightly, a tiny gasp escaping her lips. She sat down her glass of wine with trembling fingers, her usual elegant demeanor completely shattered. The mask was off. "She wasn't right for you, Darius. She would have ruined everything you'd worked for." Her justification, rooted in snobbery and misguided ambition for her son, sounded hollow and self-serving against the enormity of her deceit. "She was carrying my children," he exploded, the sound of his voice shaking the very walls of the immaculate room. "3 of them, Mom, and I didn't even know they existed until I pulled them out of a fire." Diane sat slowly, her face pale. "You don't understand. That girl was poor, ambitious. She would have drained you." Her words were a chilling echo of her earlier prejudices, a testament to her inability to see Amara as anything more than a social climbing opportunist. But Darius countered her with an unwavering truth that resonated with the reality he had just uncovered. "She raised my children in a 1-bedroom apartment while working 2 jobs. She didn't ask you for anything. She didn't take your money. She walked away with nothing but her pride." The stark contrast between Diane's assumptions and Amara's lived reality was a devastating indictment. Tears welled in his mother's eyes, a rare display of emotion, though perhaps more for her shattered vision than for the pain she caused. "I only wanted to protect you. You were so close to your dream." "You destroyed it," he whispered, his voice trembling with a raw pain that cut deeper than any shout. "You took away 5 years I'll never get back." He turned away from her then, the finality of his decision palpable. She reached out a desperate, futile gesture. "Please, Darius, don't walk away." He looked over his shoulder, his jaw trembling with unspoken anguish, but his eyes were clear, resolved. "I'm not walking away. I'm walking toward my family." And then he left and didn't look back. It was a decisive break, a rejection of the gilded cage his mother had built for him, choosing instead the messy, unpredictable, but infinitely more real path of fatherhood and love. This confrontation is a powerful example of an adult child finally breaking free from parental manipulation, even at the cost of profound family rupture. It underscores the idea that true wealth lies not in inherited fortune, but in authentic human connection. The next day, Amara stood in front of the classroom blackboard, chalk in hand, her mind miles away. She hadn't slept much. The image of Darius's face burned into her memory. The raw pain, the anger, the guilt, all there, but something else, too. Something she hadn't seen in years. Love. It was a disquieting thought, a possibility she wasn't sure she was ready to entertain. The bell rang, signaling the start of the school day. Kids filed in, a familiar symphony of chatter and shuffling feet. Then a soft knock at the door. She turned, and there he was, wearing his station uniform, clean-shaven, holding 3 small lunch bags, and a sheepish smile. "I know this is bold, but I figured they might want to eat with me, if it's okay." The class erupted in oohs and giggles, the innocent excitement contagious. Micah, Miles, and Malia's faces lit up like the sun, their joy uncontainable. "Mr. Darius!" They ran into his arms before Amara could even form a word. And in that moment, for just a second, she saw something she never thought she'd see again. A family, whole, if only for a lunch hour. It was a fleeting vision, but potent, suggesting a future she hadn't dared to dream. The children's uninhibited acceptance of Darius was both heartwarming and terrifying for Amara. "Micah, pass me the orange one!" Miles yelled across the living room floor that evening, where they were sprawled amidst crayons, construction paper, and glue sticks. "No, I need it first," Micah shot back, clutching the crayon tightly. "I'm drawing Mr. D in his fireman suit." Malia rolled her eyes with the air of an exasperated older sister, reaching across both of them. "You both need to chill. I'm making a thank you card, not a comic book." She pushed a lock of hair behind her ear, carefully writing out, "Thank you, Mr. Darius. You saved us." Amara stood in the kitchen, a dish rag in her hand, frozen as she watched from a distance. Her heart tugged at the sound of his name, at the effortless way he had embedded himself into their lives. She had only allowed 2 visits, and already he was indispensable to them. They spoke about him like he was part of the family, but he wasn't. Not yet. That evening, while folding laundry, she found a small piece of notebook paper under Malia's bed. At first she thought it was schoolwork, but then she read the words clumsily scrolled in crayon. "Dear God, if Mr. D is our real daddy, can you make him stay?" Her chest ached. She sat on the bed slowly, holding the note to her heart. She wanted to cry, but she couldn't. Not in front of the kids, not when they were finally feeling happy, finally experiencing the joy of a father's presence. But deep inside, she was terrified. Because for the first time in 5 years, her kids were falling in love with a man. And it was a man who had the power to break their hearts all over again. This small note encapsulated the profound hope and vulnerability of children, and the immense responsibility now placed on Darius. The next morning, as they got ready for school, Malia stood in front of the mirror, diligently braiding her own hair. "Mommy," she asked casually, her innocent question striking like lightning, "did you ever like Mr. Darius?" Amara paused mid-toast, nearly burning the bread, the mundane morning routine suddenly fraught with unspoken tension. "What makes you ask that?" Malia shrugged. "I don't know. He looks at you weird. Like how Elijah looks at Chi-Chi when she shares her snacks with him at school." Amara laughed despite herself. a shaky, nervous sound. "Well, maybe Mr. D just respects me." "Nope," Malia shook her head confidently. "He looks like he likes you. Likes you. Like maybe you were a girlfriend before." Micah poked his head around the corner, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Were you, though?" Miles jumped in, his voice urgent. "Yeah. Is that why he knows our names already?" Amara stared at her 3 kids, wide-eyed, curious, and sharper than they had any right to be at that age. Their innocent observations cut straight to the heart of the matter. "Mr. D is someone I knew a long time ago," she said slowly, choosing her words carefully. "Before you 3 were born." "So you were in love?" Miles gasped, the dramatic pronouncement of a 6-year-old. "That's not what I said." "So, is he our daddy?" Malia interrupted, dead serious, her gaze unwavering. The question hit the room like a thunderclap. Everything stopped. Amara sat down her coffee cup, the clink echoing in the sudden silence. She knelt and looked them each in the eye, knowing this was a moment that demanded absolute honesty. "If he were, what would you think about that?" The boys exchanged a glance. Micah shrugged, the weight of the question too profound for his young mind. "Cool, I guess," Miles said, ever practical. "Would that mean we get to see him more?" Malia tilted her head, a knowing smile spreading across her face. "I already knew it," she smiled proudly. "His eyes look like ours, and his ears do that pointy thing when he smiles, like Miles's ears." Amara let out a shaky laugh, a mix of relief and overwhelmed emotion. "You all are too much. Come on, get your shoes on. You're going to be late." But even as she moved around the house, preparing them for school, her thoughts were spiraling. They were not ready. She wasn't sure she was either. The truth, once a protective barrier, now felt like a fragile shell around their nascent family. At school, career day was buzzing with excitement, a kaleidoscope of uniforms and tools. Police officers, chefs, mechanics, even a dentist, all were lined up outside the classrooms, eager to share their professions with wide-eyed children. But when Darius walked in, tall, confident in his Navy uniform, a nod to his broader service perhaps, or a specific detail of his background that resonates with his role, his badge shining, heads turned. There's something inherently captivating about a man in uniform, especially one who embodies heroism. Micah, Miles, and Malia jumped out of their seats. "Mr. D!" they shouted, nearly knocking their chairs over in their haste. He grinned, a genuine, easy smile that instantly put everyone at ease. Whoa, I'm just the fire guy. Relax." The teacher welcomed him up front. "Class, this is Captain Darius King. He's the firefighter who saved our very own triplets last month." Applause broke out, a spontaneous outpouring of admiration. The triplets beamed with pride, their small chests puffing out, basking in the reflected glory of their hero, their father. Darius gave his speech, teaching the kids how to stop, drop, and roll, explaining what firefighters do, letting them try on a tiny helmet, engaging them with the practicalities of his dangerous profession. But it was the moment he shared why he became a firefighter that made Amara freeze in the hallway, eavesdropping on the profound truth he was about to unveil. "I became a firefighter because I lost someone once, someone I loved, and I realized that if I could help keep others safe, maybe I could save someone else's someone." He glanced toward the open door where Amara stood, eyes wide, her heart twisting in her chest. "And if I had the chance to do it all over again, I'd fight harder to keep that person in my life." His voice cracked slightly, a subtle betrayer of deep emotion. The children, lost in their world of simple heroics, didn't notice, but Amara did. Her heart twisted. His words were a direct, public apology, a promise and a plea, all rolled into one. It was a declaration of love, not just for the ideal of heroism, but for the very real woman standing in the hallway. After school, the triplets couldn't stop talking about him, their voices a joyful chorus. "He let us touch the oxygen tank." "He told me I was strong enough to carry a hose." "He said Malia was brave like a firefighter already." Amara smiled, a genuine, soft smile, but her silence was growing. The unspoken questions, the unresolved emotions, were becoming a palpable presence between them. That night, when they were finally asleep, their small forms nestled in their beds, Amara stepped out onto the small balcony, wrapping her cardigan tightly around her. Darius was downstairs in his truck, waiting. She had called him, a deliberate, hesitant invitation. "I need to talk to you. Now!" As he stepped out and leaned against the hood, the night air between them was thick with unspoken tension, with years of history and unresolved pain. "They asked me today," she said, her voice quiet, almost fragile, "if you were their father." Darius looked up sharply, his gaze piercing the darkness. "What did you say?" "I said you were someone I knew a long time ago. But they're not dumb. They know. They feel it." He nodded slowly, understanding the undeniable bond that transcended time and lies. "Then let them know the rest. Please, Amara. I'll answer every question. I'll show up for every game, every school play. I don't care how long it takes. I just want the chance to be who I should have always been." His sincerity was raw, undeniable, a profound plea for a second chance at fatherhood. She studied him carefully. He looked different now. Not the boy she once knew, the one she loved with reckless abandon. This Darius had seen fire, real and emotional, and come out burned but standing, stronger, more grounded, more resolute. "One question," she said, her voice steady now, a test. He nodded, bracing himself. "Are you ready to be a father, even if they never call you Dad?" His breath caught, the question striking at the heart of his desires. But his answer was steady, unwavering. "Yes." She walked over slowly and handed him a folded paper. Inside it was a schedule of the kids' after-school programs, pickup times, teacher names, allergies, the mundane, intricate details of their lives. Darius unfolded it like it was a sacred document, a roadmap to his future. He looked up, and in her voice, quiet but firm, she added, "Welcome to the hard part." It was an invitation, a challenge, and a subtle acknowledgement of their shared journey. The journey of co-parenting, of building a family from the wreckage of the past, was officially underway. This moment, both practical and profoundly symbolic, marked the transition from individual pain to shared responsibility. The questions children ask are often the most profound, cutting straight to the heart of adult complexities with innocent precision. "So if Mr. D is our real daddy, why wasn't he here when we were babies?" Malia's question sliced through the quiet dinner table like a blade, asked so innocently, her cheeks full of rice, her little legs swinging off the dining chair. Amara dropped her spoon, the clatter echoing in the sudden silence. Micah stopped mid-bite. Miles looked at their mother, waiting, their small faces mirroring the gravity of the moment. Amara swallowed hard. She had been preparing for this conversation, mentally rehearsing her words, but not tonight, not while the meat was still warm, not with the boys still in their pajamas from after-school snack hour. Life, as always, had a way of ambushing her with its most difficult lessons. "That's a big question," she said gently, trying to buy herself time. "And it deserves a big answer." "But we're big kids," Miles said proudly, puffing out his chest. "We're almost 6. Amara smiled faintly and nodded. She got up from the table, walked to the side closet, and pulled down a dusty shoebox wrapped in duct tape. She had once planned to open this when they were 10, maybe older, when she thought they would be ready to understand the harsh realities of adult betrayal. But kids, with their uncanny ability to unearth the truth, often acted faster than you were ready. She set the box on the table and peeled the tape off slowly, each sound a deliberate, painful echo. Inside were old photos, a few ultrasound prints, and a folded letter she never sent. This was her archive of a life derailed, a testament to her resilience. "This is Mr. D," she said, holding up a college graduation photo of her and Darius, arm in arm, laughing, vibrant with a shared future that never materialized. "We loved each other very much back then. We dreamed of having a family, of raising you 3 together. Then what happened?" Micah asked, eyes wide, completely absorbed by the unfolding narrative. Amara looked down, her fingers brushing the edges of the photo, choosing her words with agonizing care. "When I found out I was pregnant, I went to his house. I wanted to tell him right away, but I didn't find him. I found his mother. Malia frowned, the concept confusing. Grandma? His mother? Your grandma? Amara clarified. She didn't like me very much, and she didn't want me to be part of his life. So she told me lies, said Darius didn't love me anymore, that he left town, that he didn't want us. Micah blinked, processing the enormity of the deception. So, she lied. Amara nodded, tears welling in her eyes, her voice cracking with the lingering pain. Yes, and I believed her. I was scared. I had no one. I thought he knew and didn't care, so I raised you all by myself. The room was quiet, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall, marking the passage of stolen time. But now he's back, Miles whispered, his voice small but hopeful. And he said he wants to be our daddy. He does, Amara replied, her voice tight with a mixture of hope and fear. And I believe him, but that decision isn't just mine anymore. It's yours too. This moment exemplifies the incredible burden and privilege of parenthood, the responsibility to guide children through difficult truths, to explain the inexplicable, and ultimately to empower them to make their own choices about who belongs in their family. It's a powerful lesson in transparency and trust. Across town, Darius was pacing in his apartment, a whirlwind of nervous energy. The living room was littered with kids' toys he'd bought, and then second-guessed giving, afraid of overstepping. Clothes he'd ordered online sat unopened, a testament to his hesitation. He didn't want to overstep. Not yet. His phone buzzed. A message from Amara. They know. No emojis, no punctuation, just a stark, simple truth. But he knew exactly what it meant. They'd asked, and she told them. He sat on the couch, phone still in hand, his stomach twisted in knots, the outcome of this conversation hanging heavy in the air. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, then typed, "Are they okay?" The reply came almost immediately, confused, quiet, but not angry. Then, after a pause, a lifeline. "They want to see you tomorrow after school." His heart leaped. The path forward, though uncertain, was opening up. The next day, Darius stood outside their school in a crisp polo and jeans, trying to steady his breathing. He had fought flames taller than buildings, pulled people from wreckage, walked through hell more than once, but nothing, not even crawling through burning rafters, terrified him like this moment. The school bell rang. Micah came out first, holding Miles's hand. Malia followed, her eyes trained on him, a serious, expectant gaze. They all stopped a few feet away, their small forms silhouetted against the bustling schoolyard. "Hi," he said gently, his voice almost a whisper. No one spoke. The children, usually so exuberant, were quiet, processing the enormity of what they had learned. Then Malia stepped forward, her little face serious, her question direct and unwavering. "Did you know about us?" Darius crouched to her level, meeting her gaze head-on. "No, baby girl, I didn't. If I had, I would have been there every day for all of you." "Why didn't you look for us?" Micah asked, stepping closer, his curiosity overriding his shyness. Darius hesitated, the words a bitter confession. "Because I thought your mom left me. I thought she moved on, that she didn't want me to be part of her life." "But you believed your mommy instead of ours," Malia said plainly, her child's logic piercing through the adult excuses. That stung. "Yes," he admitted, the weight of his mistake heavy on his shoulders. "I made that mistake. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't fight hard enough, and that's something I'll regret forever." Miles, in a gesture of pure, childlike empathy, reached up and touched Darius's face with his small hand. "You don't feel like a stranger," he said, his voice soft, perceptive. "You feel like somebody I missed before I knew I missed them." Tears threatened to rise in Darius's throat, but he swallowed hard, fighting for composure. "Can I hug you?" he asked quietly, seeking permission, seeking acceptance. All three nodded at once, their faces alight with a mixture of relief and nascent love. He opened his arms and they rushed him, wrapping around his neck, laughing, crying, clutching their hero daddy like they'd known all along. Amara stood by the car, watching them, hand on her heart, eyes shimmering. For the first time in years, she saw something beautiful bloom where pain once lived. The nascent formation of a family, scarred but whole, finally finding its truth. That evening the park air was soft and warm, a gentle balm after the day's emotional revelations. They sat on a blanket, a makeshift family picnic, enjoying fried chicken and biscuits from the corner takeout. Darius had brought coloring books, a simple gesture of connection. He even tried to braid Malia's hair, poorly, his large firefighter hands fumbling with the delicate strands, but his efforts spoke volumes. The kids, unburdened by the secrets of the past, chattered happily, telling him stories about their fears, their dreams, their imaginary friend named Mr. Marshmallow, who used to guard them while they slept. "That's your job now," Malia said, climbing into his lap, her small voice imbued with profound trust. "It always was," Darius whispered, his heart full, finally accepting the mantle of fatherhood. But not everything was fixed. Trust, particularly in matters of the heart, is not easily restored after years of betrayal and abandonment. That night, after the kids fell asleep, Darius helped Amara clean the kitchen, a domestic ritual that felt both normal and profoundly significant. He dried the dishes while she wiped down the counter, their movements synchronized, a quiet rhythm emerging between them. "They're falling fast for you," she said without looking at him, her voice tinged with a mix of observation and underlying vulnerability. "I know," he replied softly, his voice gentle, "and I'm terrified I'll disappoint them." She set down the rag and turned to face him, her gaze direct. "Then don't." He nodded, then cautiously, "I know I messed up, Amara, but I still love you." She stiffened, her eyes narrowing, a defensive barrier instantly rising. "Don't." Her past pain was a formidable shield. "I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to say it, because it's true. I never stopped." He wasn't demanding, he was confessing, his voice raw with sincerity. But Amara shook her head, laughing bitterly, the sound devoid of humor. "You don't get to say that like time stood still, like nothing happened. I lost everything back then. My dignity, my support, my peace. I buried myself in motherhood just to survive." "I know," he insisted, his voice heavy with understanding. "No, you don't," she snapped, her voice rising, finally allowing the depth of her anger and resentment to surface. "You're here now because fate forced your hand, not because you earned your way back. So don't say you love me unless you're ready to fight for me the way I fought for them." Darius stepped back, wounded by her words, but he didn't argue. He understood the validity of her pain, the righteousness of her anger. He just picked up his keys, gave one last look toward the hallway where his children slept, and said, "Then I'll fight every day for as long as it takes." And with that, he left quietly, respectfully, leaving Amara alone in the kitchen, tears on her cheeks, and something soft cracking open inside her chest. Hope. It was a fragile, terrifying emotion, but it was there. This intense exchange highlights the profound difference between a sudden return and the arduous process of rebuilding trust. Amara's demand for Darius to fight for me the way I fought for them is a powerful articulation of the emotional labor and sacrifice often borne by single mothers, and the expectation that a returning parent must earn their place through sustained, demonstrated effort, not just declarations. "What is all this?" Amara stood on her apartment doorstep, blinking against the morning sun, her voice a mix of surprise and wary amusement. Darius stood in front of her, sleeves rolled up, jeans dusty, a man clearly at work. And behind him, two men from his firehouse were unloading a flatbed truck, a surprising ensemble. "Good morning," Darius grinned, that crooked smile that sometimes made her heart betray her for a quick second. "Didn't want to bother you last night, but I figured your kitchen faucet's leaking, the screen on your back window is broken, and your stair railing's wobbly." Amara crossed her arms, not entirely impressed. "So now you're a handyman too?" "Just a dad with a toolkit," he said, brushing past her with a box of tools, the air around him buzzing with purpose. "You didn't ask to fix anything, and you didn't ask to raise 3 kids alone. Let me do something now, Amara. Let me show up." She opened her mouth to argue, her well-honed independence bristling at the unsolicited help, but stopped. The truth in his voice, the genuine desire to contribute, dulled her defenses. "Fine," she conceded, "but only the faucet and the railing, not the bathroom sink. I've already mastered its attitude." Darius chuckled, a rich, warm sound. "Got it, ma'am. Faucet and railing only." But she should have known he wouldn't stop there. By mid-morning, the kids were up and climbing all over him like he was their personal jungle gym. Micah showed him how to make pancakes using only the burnt edges. Miles was determined to teach him a TikTok dance involving a lot of dramatic hip twisting and sound effects. And Malia kept asking him to braid her doll's hair the right way this time, her small hands guiding his large ones. By noon, the leaking faucet was replaced, the railing was reinforced, and Darius was covered in sweat, syrup, and glitter. He was exhausted but radiating a quiet joy. "You sure you don't want a nap?" Amara teased from the kitchen as he took a break, sprawled on the floor amidst the colorful chaos. "I fought 5 alarm fires with less chaos," he groaned, his eyes closing, as Micah and Miles jumped over his legs like hurdles. "Well, these fires talk back and ask for snacks every 5 minutes," Amara replied, smirking. He opened one eye to look at her, a profound admiration in his gaze. "You've been doing this solo for 5 years." 5 years, 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, she replied without hesitation, the precise accounting a testament to the meticulous record-keeping of a single parent. Darius sat up slowly, truly grasping the magnitude of her journey. "Then you're the strongest person I've ever met." This wasn't just a compliment. It was a recognition of her extraordinary resilience, a new depth of respect in his eyes. That night, he went home to his apartment, exhausted, aching, but lighter than he'd felt in years. He flipped open a notebook and started writing. A schedule, a list of responsibilities, ideas for co-parenting, a search for therapists specializing in children of absentee fathers, a fire safety plan for their apartment complex, and maybe someday, a college fund. This meticulous planning reflects a profound shift in Darius. He's no longer just reacting, he's proactively building a future, demonstrating a deep commitment that goes beyond superficial gestures. The next week, Darius started volunteering at the kids' school. Every Thursday, he hosted Fire Safety and Life Lessons Hour with grades K through 3. He taught them how to escape a smoke-filled room, how to dial 911, and how to stay calm in an emergency. But for Micah, Miles, and Malia, it meant more. "Mr. D is my dad," Micah whispered proudly one day during class. The teacher blinked, surprised. "I didn't know that." "Me neither," Miles added, chewing on a pencil. "But we're pretty sure because he shows up every time now." The simple, profound logic of children, equating presence with paternity, struck a powerful chord. Meanwhile, Darius had also quietly gone to work on the apartment building. Using his own savings and some favors from his firehouse, he replaced the hallway smoke detectors, fixed the faulty wiring in the stairwell, and added reflective exit signs to the emergency doors. He even gave free fire safety kits to all tenants. Word spread fast. The building called him Super Dad. Amara just called him Relentless. His actions, extending beyond his immediate family to the community, spoke to a deeper sense of responsibility and quiet dedication. One Thursday afternoon, she returned home from a long shift at school and found her old car parked in a different spot. It had a fresh coat of paint, new tires, and a repaired bumper. She stormed into the building, fire in her eyes, her independence bristling. Darius was sitting on the couch, Malia asleep on his chest, a picture of domestic tranquility that belied the storm brewing within Amara. "What did you do to my car?" she asked in a hushed, furious whisper. He looked up, calm, unflustered. "It was unsafe. Bald tires, faulty brakes. You've got 3 kids in the back seat. I couldn't ignore it." "It's my car, Darius. You should have asked me." He nodded slowly. "You're right. I should have." She blinked, surprised at the lack of resistance, at his quiet acknowledgement of her boundary. "So you're not going to fight me on this?" "Nope. I made a mistake. I'm learning." Amara looked at him, studying him like a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Why are you doing all this?" "Because I missed 5 years of their lives. I'll never get those back. But I can make sure every day from now on is better than the last. And if that means fixing cars and coloring with glitter pens and learning how to braid, I'm doing it." She looked down at her daughter asleep on his chest. Her eyes softened. "You forgot dance recital practice is on Tuesdays," she muttered, a teasing, almost affectionate jab. Darius smiled. "Not anymore." This scene is a beautiful demonstration of how true apologies are often expressed through actions, not just words. Darius is showing up, not just for his children, but for Amara, acknowledging her struggles and actively working to alleviate them, even when it means stepping on her independent pride. The transformation in Amara's life, subtle yet profound, did not go unnoticed by everyone. Chris, Amara's longtime friend and loyal neighbor, stood outside his apartment one evening and watched as Darius walked the kids up from the corner store, one on his shoulders, two holding each hand. It was a picture of idyllic family life, and Chris didn't like it. He didn't trust Darius, the man who had abandoned Amara, and he definitely didn't like the way Amara laughed more these days, a lightness returning to her that he hadn't seen in years. Chris's feelings, though perhaps misplaced, are understandable. He had been the steady presence, the reliable support system for Amara and the children during Darius's prolonged absence. To see his place seemingly usurped by the very person who caused so much pain would understandably stir feelings of resentment and jealousy. That weekend, the triplets had their early birthday celebration at a local park. Amara had organized a simple picnic with homemade cupcakes and juice boxes, a celebration rooted in her usual practical, loving spirit. But Darius, with his flair for the dramatic and his newfound paternal exuberance, showed up with balloons, superhero capes, and custom T-shirts for each child that proudly declared, "Firefighter in training, property of Daddy." They wore them all day, beaming with pride, fully embracing their new, complete family dynamic. At sunset, Amara called the kids over to blow out candles on a shared cake. "Make a wish," she said, the familiar ritual a moment of quiet magic. Micah went first, then Miles, then Malia. They didn't say what they wished for, holding their secrets close, as children often do. But later that night, as they got into bed, Miles whispered to Amara, "We all wished for the same thing." "What's that, baby?" she asked, her heart already bracing for the answer. "To have a real family, all of us together." The simple, profound wish of a child, a silent plea that underscored the growing bond they felt with Darius. "All right, everyone, settle down." Amara clapped her hands over the soft chatter of excited children and nosy parents. The park's covered pavilion was decorated with paper lanterns, balloons tied to wooden beams, and a happy 6th birthday triplets banner that sagged a little in the middle, but was charming nonetheless. Cupcake towers stood on the picnic tables. Juice boxes were stacked like pyramids. Several tired-looking parents of schoolmates had gathered with gift bags, Tupperware, and toddlers in tow. But none of it compared to the 3 stars of the day, Micah, Miles, and Malia, wearing matching T-shirts that read, "Team Triple Trouble, Official Birthday Edition." Amara had spent the entire week preparing everything herself, the meticulous work a testament to her enduring love. She had only let Darius in on it 2 days prior, still getting used to sharing space with him, let alone power over their kids' lives. She watched from behind the table as he walked up the hill, carrying a surprise in each hand. The triplets screamed in unison when they saw him. "Daddy!" 3 helium balloons flew above his head, each with their names printed in gold foil. "One each, just like the 3 of you," he said, handing them off. Malia hugged him first. Micah tugged on his pants leg. Miles shouted, "You're just in time for the cupcakes!" Amara couldn't help but smile, even as she rolled her eyes playfully. He gave her a look, warm, private, a fleeting moment of connection that acknowledged their shared joy. "Nice turnout," he said, nodding at the families gathered. "I bribed half the school with brownies," he laughed. "Works every time." When it came time for the candles, the pavilion grew quiet, the children's anticipation palpable. 3 cupcakes sat before them, each one topped with a tall sparkler candle that fizzed and hissed as the crowd counted down. 3, 2, 1. The triplets closed their eyes at the same time, hands folded, silent wishes locked inside. Then they each blew out their candle, the small puffs of air extinguishing the tiny flames. The crowd erupted into cheers, but Amara couldn't stop watching them, the way they'd made their wishes, so focused, so earnest. She knew something was different. The children's wishes, now openly expressed, were no longer just a private hope. They were a collective yearning, a gentle nudge towards the future. Later that night, after the leftover cupcakes had been boxed, the decorations taken down, and the final goodbye waves exchanged, Amara stood in the kids' room, folding their birthday clothes into laundry baskets. The three of them sat cross-legged on the floor, munching their final bites of cake, whispering secrets, until Malia spoke up. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby." "Is it bad to wish for something even if it might never happen?" Amara turned slowly, her heart catching. "Depends on the wish." Micah and Miles looked at each other, then at their sister, nodding in silent agreement. "We all made the same wish," Miles said seriously. "We didn't even tell each other before," Micah added. "It just happened." Amara knelt, her heart pounding, bracing herself for the inevitable. "What did you wish for?" "To live with both our parents?" Malia's voice was small but confident, an unwavering declaration. "We want our daddy to live here with us, like a real family." Amara's breath caught. She sat back on her heels, heart pounding. "We like him," Micah said. "We love him," Miles corrected, his voice firm. "And he loves you," Malia added, with a keen observation. "Even when you act like you don't love him back." Amara blinked, stunned. "I don't act like—" "You roll your eyes every time he makes you laugh," Malia said matter-of-factly, "and you smile behind his back." Amara opened her mouth to protest, then closed it again. They weren't wrong. Her children, with their innocent, unfiltered perspective, had seen through her defenses, revealing the truth her heart had been trying to deny. The next morning, Amara found a handwritten letter slipped under her apartment door. She recognized Darius's handwriting right away, a familiar script that now carried a new weight of hope and possibility. "Dear Amara, I don't want to push. I know I've broken a lot of trust, but I also know something has changed between us. If there's a way for us to try again, not just for the kids, but for us, I'm willing to do the work every single day. Love, Darius." She stood with the letter in her hands for a long time, a very long time, the words a profound challenge to her guarded heart. Then she folded it carefully and tucked it into her journal, a silent acknowledgement of its impact. She didn't reply, not with words, but she made up an extra portion of lunch that day and dropped it into a lunchbox labeled Dad. Amdi azu sabasa. It was a small, unspoken gesture, a tentative step forward, acknowledging his presence, his efforts, and the stirring of something she hadn't dared to name. Later that week, Darius showed up with his biggest surprise yet. Tickets to a weekend getaway, a quiet cabin on Lake Marion, only 2 hours away. "Nothing fancy, just family. I know we're not there yet," he said cautiously, reading her expression. "But the kids deserve something special. No big crowds, just water, trees, stars, and marshmallows." Amara raised a brow, a flicker of amusement dancing in her eyes. "You trying to kidnap us into trusting you?" He laughed, a genuine, joyful sound. "No, ma'am, just applying for the job of full-time dad." She looked down at the tickets, the promise of a peaceful escape, a chance to truly be a family. "And what's my job in that plan?" He met her eyes, something raw and honest in his voice. "Yours? You're the boss, the anchor, the reason I'm still standing." His words were a powerful declaration, acknowledging her strength and centrality to their new life. At the cabin, the kids shrieked with delight. There was a loft with bunk beds, a fire pit, and a canoe tied to a little wooden dock, all the ingredients for childhood dreams. Darius, embracing his role, taught the boys how to paddle, their small arms flailing in joyful attempts. Amara, ever the practical one, taught Malia how to toast marshmallows without lighting them on fire, a small but essential life skill. That night, around the crackling fire, the kids begged for a story. Darius started one, then, with a playful nudge, let Amara finish it. And as the flames flickered across their faces, illuminating their shared laughter, Amara saw something in him, something that used to live in her long ago, home. It was a profound realization, a feeling of belonging that had been absent for far too long. This getaway wasn't just a break, it was a deliberate act of family building, a test of their nascent unity. Later, after the kids had fallen asleep, curled on sleeping bags in the loft, Amara stepped out onto the porch to find Darius staring up at the stars. He handed her a blanket and a glass of wine, a simple gesture of shared peace. "Beautiful night," he murmured. She nodded, the quiet comfort of his presence a new, welcome sensation. Then slowly, almost hesitant, she whispered, "They made a wish to live with you." Darius turned, his gaze intense, filled with an unwavering hope. "I'd give anything to make that come true, even if it means living under my rules." He smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "Amara, I'd sleep in a tent in your hallway if it meant being near them." "And you?" he asked, his voice soft, inviting her vulnerability. She looked away, but her voice cracked slightly, revealing the raw emotion beneath her carefully constructed composure. "They want us to be a family." He stepped closer, the unspoken question hanging in the air. "And what do you want?" Silence. Then quietly, a confession that had been buried deep within her heart. "I want to believe in love again. I want to stop living like I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop." Darius nodded, his understanding palpable. Then, he took her hand gently, his touch a silent promise. "Then let's stop waiting." She didn't pull away. For the first time, she let herself lean into him. Just a little, just enough. The cracks in her armor were finally starting to yield, allowing a sliver of hope to penetrate. This moment, filled with vulnerability and mutual understanding, is a crucial turning point, signaling Amara's tentative readiness to open her heart again. "You've got company." The security guard at the school gate called over to Amara as she walked across the parking lot, arms full of student notebooks and worksheets, her mind still replaying the tender moments from the cabin. She turned, squinting against the midday sun, and her breath caught. Diane King, tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy pantsuit, pearls glinting at her throat, sunglasses perched like a crown. Darius's mother stood there like she owned the pavement beneath her heels, an undeniable force of old money and simmering resentment. "Hello, Amara," she said smoothly, removing her glasses, her eyes, sharp and calculating, raking over Amara. Amara didn't stop walking, a defiant act of ignoring the unwelcome intrusion. "You're not welcome here." Diane fell into step beside her, her voice a low purr, designed to sound reasonable while delivering a veiled threat. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to see my grandchildren." Amara spun around, her patience snapping. "You have grandchildren now? Funny you didn't seem interested when I was 6 months pregnant and sobbing on your marble floor." Diane sighed, a practiced gesture of exasperation. "That was a long time ago." "And those 3 children have survived 5 birthdays without your flowers or phone calls," Amara countered, her voice rising with righteous indignation. "So forgive me if I don't give a damn about what was a long time ago." Diane's expression twisted, her carefully maintained composure cracking. "You're poisoning them against me, I see, just like you poisoned Darius." "Excuse me?" Amara challenged, stepping forward, her anger now fully ignited. "He's different now. Obsessed, defiant. You've manipulated him into believing your version of the past." Amara took another step forward, her voice a furious whisper. "Your version is the one where I was disposable, where your son never knew he had children, where your lies kept us all apart. You don't get to rewrite the truth, Diane, not anymore." Diane's voice dropped low, a chilling, veiled threat. "Do you really think this ends in your favor? You're just a woman he couldn't forget. That doesn't make you permanent." "No," Amara countered, her voice now steady and resolute, "but being the mother of his children does." A few teachers walking by paused awkwardly, sensing the charged tension. Amara turned without another word and walked away, fists clenched, but inside her stomach churned. The enemy hadn't disappeared. She was just waiting. This confrontation is a stark illustration of the ongoing battle against entrenched privilege and the resilience required to stand up for one's truth against a powerful adversary. Later that evening, Darius knocked on Amara's door, a bag of groceries in one arm and his firehouse jacket slung over the other, a picture of domesticity juxtaposed with the day's drama. She opened the door with a hard look, her face etched with residual anger. "Your mother was at my school today." He blinked, stunned. "What?" "She came uninvited, unannounced, and she had the nerve to say I poisoned you against her." Darius set the groceries down and exhaled, his whole body tensing, the news confirming his worst fears about his mother's relentless interference. "I told her to stay away from you, from the kids. Clearly, she didn't listen." He rubbed his jaw, pacing, his frustration evident. "I'll talk to her. She won't come near you again." Amara folded her arms, her gaze unwavering. "I don't need you to talk, Darius. I need to know whose side you're on, fully. Not halfway, not 1 foot in the door and 1 back at the estate." He stopped pacing, his eyes meeting hers, full of conviction. "I already chose the moment I held Micah and felt his heartbeat next to mine. When Malia hugged me like I belonged. When Miles cried because I missed one of his jokes. I chose you. I chose them." "Then prove it," she challenged, her voice a demand for concrete action, not just words. He frowned. "How?" She walked over, pulled a box from under the table, and opened it. Inside were documents, birth certificates, school records, medical forms, all signed by her alone. "You want to be their father? Be it on paper. Step into the role, not as a visitor, not as a friend, as their legal parent." Darius reached for the papers without hesitation, his hand steady, his resolve absolute. "Where do I sign?" This moment is pivotal, marking Darius's definitive break from his past and his full legal commitment to Amara and the children. Meanwhile, back at the King estate, Diane sat across from her husband in the study, sipping tea with trembling hands, her composure finally crumbling. "He's not answering his phone anymore," she said, her voice tight with panic. "He's slipping away from us. That woman's taken everything." Mr. King, a quiet, conservative man who had always followed his wife's lead, set down his newspaper, his words, though softly spoken, carrying an unusual weight. Maybe he's simply becoming a father. Diane's eyes narrowed, her paranoia deepening. "He's becoming her soldier. Everything I warned about is happening. She was a trap from the beginning." Her husband shrugged, a gesture of weary resignation. "Perhaps she wasn't the villain. Maybe we were." "She'll destroy our legacy," Diane whispered, the true source of her fear finally revealed. "He'll give up everything. The foundation, the trust, the company." "Then maybe we didn't deserve him in the first place," Mr. King replied, his words a quiet rebuke, a rare but powerful moment of defiance against his wife's long-standing manipulation. The King family, too, was grappling with its own internal reckoning. Back in the neighborhood, Darius was already setting plans into motion, his commitment unwavering. He scheduled a meeting with a family attorney to begin the process of joint custody, a legal affirmation of his paternal role. He sat down with the school principal to officially add his name to the emergency contact forms, a small but significant detail that cemented his presence. He updated their health insurance coverage, added them to his beneficiary plan. Each act, no matter how mundane, felt like a puzzle piece falling into place, constructing the intricate tapestry of a family. Micah noticed the change first. "Why are you always at the house now?" he asked during one of their evening walks, a child's direct observation, cutting through adult complexities. "Are you going to live with us forever?" Darius smiled, a genuine warmth spreading through him. "Only if you 3 can handle my terrible cooking and even worse dance moves." Miles chimed in, ever the loyal enthusiast. "You make the best cereal. That counts." Malia tilted her head, her sharp young mind seeking clarity. "Does this mean we're like an official family now?" Darius paused, knelt in front of them, meeting their gaze with unwavering sincerity. "We've always been a family, but now I get to show up for you in every way I should have from the start." Malia hugged him first, a spontaneous outpouring of love. Then the boys piled on, a joyful tangle of arms and legs, a family reunited. That weekend, Amara received a letter in the mail from a private firm. She opened it on the porch, her heart pounding with a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Inside was a formal notification. Christopher King Trust has been reassigned. Darius King has withdrawn himself as a primary heir. All assets relinquished per his request. Amara sat down slowly, the paper fluttering from her trembling fingers. He had cut himself off from his family's immense wealth, from the legacy Diane had so fiercely protected, from everything he had once been expected to inherit. He had chosen them, fully, definitively, irrevocably. The tears came fast, hot and urgent, not tears of sorrow, but of profound relief and overwhelming love. She didn't try to stop them. It was a profound act of sacrifice, a tangible demonstration that his commitment to his new family far outweighed the allure of generational wealth and privilege. That evening, Darius walked into the apartment with his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, a quiet arrival that spoke volumes. "What's that?" Amara asked, her voice soft with a hint of awe. "My clothes, some books, a framed photo." She narrowed her eyes playfully. "You moving in without permission?" He grinned, the easy banter a testament to their shifting dynamic. "I'm applying for tenant status, rent-free. In exchange, I offer nightly bedtime stories, laundry folding, and emotionally available fatherhood." She rolled her eyes, but a smile played on her lips. "You left out trash duty." "Negotiable," he teased, their playful sparring a comfortable rhythm. She crossed her arms, her gaze turning serious. "And what about me, Darius? What's your plan with me?" He stepped closer, his smile fading, his expression earnest. "I'm still earning you every day, but I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you tell me to." Amara stared at him, the weight of his promise palpable. Then with a deep breath, a surrender of her fiercely independent heart. "Then bring your toothbrush, and don't hog the hot water." It was an invitation, a declaration, and a cautious step into a shared future. The smell of cinnamon rolls floated through the apartment like a warm embrace. Malia stood on a kitchen stool, carefully icing each bun while Micah set the plates. Miles, of course, had already snuck 2 pieces into his mouth when he thought no one was watching, his small act of mischief a familiar part of their new routine. "We can't eat until Daddy gets back," Malia announced, adjusting her little silk bonnet and folding her arms like a mini version of Amara, embodying her mother's maternal authority. "I'm hungry now," Miles groaned, ever impatient. "He'll understand. He said 10 minutes, Micah added, peeking out the window. "Firehouse check-in. He'll be back any sec." Amara leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. A strange calm had settled in the apartment lately. Not silence. No, the triplets were always loud and alive, but a peace had crept into their routine, a wholeness they were adjusting to. Darius, to the rhythm of being 5 instead of 4. And Amara, against her own will, was adjusting too, finding a new equilibrium in their expanded family. When Darius finally opened the front door, dressed down in a fitted black tee, dark jeans, and boots dusted from station grime, he was met with 3 loud cheers. "Daddy, we saved you the middle cinnamon roll. It's the biggest one." He laughed, scooping up Miles with one arm and fist-bumping Micah with the other. "You kids trying to make me soft?" "Too late," Malia teased. "You already cry at bedtime stories." Amara raised an eyebrow playfully. "You cried at the Velveteen Rabbit?" He pointed at her, mock stern. "That rabbit died, Amara. He died." The whole kitchen erupted in laughter, a joyful cacophony that filled the small apartment with warmth and love. That evening, after the kids were tucked into bed, after their chorus of bedtime requests, a 10-minute wrestling match, and 2 return trips for water, Amara walked out onto the small balcony, blanket around her shoulders, mug of tea in hand. Darius was already out there, feet kicked up on the railing, looking out over the quiet neighborhood, a shared moment of peace after the day's joyful chaos. "You going to tell me what's on your mind?" he asked, not looking at her yet, his voice gentle. She sat beside him, sipping her tea. "What makes you think something is?" "You folded the same blanket 5 times tonight." She chuckled, the sound soft and dry, a comfortable admission of her nervous habit. "You notice everything now." "That's part of the job," he said, turning to her, a soft smile on his lips. "I'm trying to earn my keep around here." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't the uncomfortable kind. It was a comfortable quiet, a testament to the growing intimacy and trust between them. Finally, Amara broke it, her voice barely a whisper. "I think I'm scared to be happy." Darius turned to her, his voice low, filled with understanding and empathy. "You think that's strange? After everything you went through, you were abandoned, humiliated, stretched to your limits, and still raised 3 miracles." She smiled tightly, the memory of her struggles still vivid. "And now you're here. It's like suddenly I'm allowed to breathe, and I don't know what to do with all this air." He reached over, gently brushing his fingers along hers, a comforting touch. "You don't owe anyone your healing speed, Amara, least of all me." "But the kids," she began, her worry still focused on them, but he stopped her, his gaze unwavering, "are already healing because they see us trying, because they feel loved. And love's not perfect, but it shows up." His words were a powerful truth, a reassurance that presence and effort were the most vital ingredients. Her eyes shimmered in the soft porch light, a new resolve forming. "Then show up tomorrow night, with a tie." He blinked, surprised. "Wait, is that the school's fall family gala? Kids want us to go as a real family. They don't want to sit at the separate parent tables anymore." His smile grew, a joyful, wide grin. "So, what color are we coordinating? Emerald green and cream?" He laughed, a deep, resonant sound. "You know that's dangerous for me, my fine ass in emerald. Somebody's gonna fall in love." She shook her head, biting back a smile, her heart doing a little flutter. "Just wear the tie, Darius." The playful banter, the shared laughter, was a testament to the love rekindling between them, a love that had defied lies and years of separation. The next evening, the school gymnasium glowed under string lights, transformed from its utilitarian self into a magical space. Soft jazz music played through the speakers as parents mingled, teachers clapped politely, and kids zipped around under tables in bow ties and tiny patent leather shoes. Amara walked in, a vision in a satin emerald green dress with cream accents, her curls swept up into an elegant twist, radiating a newfound confidence and grace. The triplets, their faces shining with excitement, each had on matching outfits: green ties, little cream suspenders, and brown dress shoes that squeaked when they walked, their small bodies a coordinated symphony of joy. Then Darius walked in. The room paused, a collective intake of breath. He was breathtaking. A dark emerald tie, perfectly matching Amara's dress, a fitted charcoal blazer over his broad chest, pants tailored, waves brushed clean. Several moms turned, one audibly sighed, a testament to his undeniable charm. "Daddy, you look fancy," Malia squealed, her small voice cutting through the admiring whispers. "Y'all look like money," he said, taking their hands, his eyes twinkling. And then he turned to Amara, his voice a low murmur, filled with adoration. "You are going to get me arrested." "I teach kindergarten," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "You think I haven't heard worse?" They laughed, but something soft, intimate, and undeniably full of love glowed between them. When it came time for the family dance, the music slowed, a romantic melody filling the air. The kids all dragged their parents to the center floor, eager to participate in this joyful expression of family. Micah danced with Amara, Malia with Darius. Miles ran between them both until he just clung to both their legs and giggled, a picture of pure, unadulterated happiness. Then the music changed, something smoother, slower, deeper, a melody that evoked memories. Darius looked at Amara, extending his hand. "One?" She hesitated, then nodded, a silent acceptance of his invitation. They moved together like muscle memory, not rushed, not showy, just them, their bodies remembering the rhythm of a love long dormant. Her hands found his shoulders. His hands cradled her waist. "Remember prom?" he asked, his voice a nostalgic whisper. "You mean when we couldn't afford a limo and walked 6 blocks in heels?" she teased. "I was still the luckiest man there." She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "And now?" "Still am." They didn't kiss. Not yet. But they didn't need to. Their bodies spoke the language. Their eyes sealed the meaning. The dance was a public declaration of their rekindled love, a silent vow that transcended words. But not everyone in the room was clapping. Across the gym, near the refreshment table, Chris, Amara's longtime friend and neighbor, watched with a clenched jaw. He'd helped raise the triplets when she had no one, held her down during late-night fevers and emergency runouts. He had sat in the ER waiting rooms and school fundraisers and babysat for free. He had been there, but he wasn't their father. And now the one man who hadn't been there was standing center stage like he'd earned it all. Chris took a long sip of punch, his eyes narrowed, a storm brewing within him. The pain of being a devoted friend, only to be overlooked for a romantic rival, was a bitter pill to swallow. That night, back in the apartment, the kids were out cold, party favors still clutched in their tiny fists, their small bodies radiating the exhaustion of a joyful day. Amara stood at the door as Darius slipped his blazer off, the lingering magic of the gala still hanging in the air. "You're really staying the night?" she asked, her voice soft, hesitant, but laced with a quiet hope. "If you'll let me," he replied, his gaze intense, a question and a plea. She nodded, a subtle, almost imperceptible movement, but it was enough. He moved toward her, slow, cautious, respecting the boundaries, yet drawn by an irresistible force. They stood inches apart, the unspoken history between them a palpable presence. "I want this," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "I want you, all of you. The fights, the stubbornness, the late nights, the quiet moments, the chaos, the healing, everything." Amara didn't speak, but her hand rose to his face, her fingers resting gently on his jaw. And finally, she kissed him. Not rushed, not messy, just right. Almost like it had been waiting inside her all this time, a quiet ember now igniting into a steady flame. It was a kiss of healing, of forgiveness, and of a shared future finally embraced. Boom, boom, boom. The knock at the door rattled the apartment, jarring Amara from the shallow sleep she'd slipped into on the couch. It was barely 6:30 a.m., the sky outside still gray with sleep. She sat up, heart pounding, a sense of dread creeping into the peaceful morning. Darius stirred on the other end of the sectional, blinking groggy, his firefighter instincts immediately on high alert. The kids were still asleep in their room. Thank God. Boom, boom! A voice followed, low and unmistakably male. "Amara, open the door. We need to talk." She froze, the voice a familiar, unwelcome sound. Darius sat up, his posture going rigid, his eyes narrowing. "Who the hell is that?" Amara already knew. She'd recognize that voice anywhere. Chris, her friend, her ex-confidant, the man who had held the triplets as infants and walked with her through fire, and who hadn't said a word to her since the family gala 4 nights ago, until now. Another knock, this one faster, more insistent. "Amara, I'm not going to leave until you open this damn door." "Stay here," she told Darius quickly, grabbing her robe and cinching it tight, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. "Like hell I'm staying here," he muttered, already rising to follow, his protective instincts kicking in. She threw him a look, a silent plea for her autonomy. "Let me talk to him first, alone." He paused, his jaw tight with reluctance, but nodded, respecting her request. Amara cracked the door just enough to peer through. Chris stood there in a black hoodie and joggers, dark circles under his eyes, his fists clenched, his face a mask of pain and resentment. "You just going to pretend I don't exist now?" he snapped. "After everything?" She stepped out and closed the door gently behind her, wanting to shield the children from this raw adult drama. "It's 6 o'clock in the morning, Chris." "I watched that man, your baby daddy, slow dance with you in front of the entire school like he ain't just show up 6 months ago. And I'm the one who helped you raise them." His words were a torrent of hurt and accusation, a desperate attempt to reclaim his place. "And I'm grateful," she said calmly, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But you don't get to demand ownership over my life because you were there when it hurt. That's not how this works." Chris stepped closer, his voice laced with bitterness. "You think he's not going to run again? That he's just going to stay, be your husband, a father forever?" He left once, Amara. He didn't know, Chris. That's what he says, Chris spat, his disbelief palpable. That's what the DNA says, Amara countered, her voice firm, unwavering. Silence. Chris's eyes flickered, the truth a harsh reality. So, you believe him now? Just like that? Amara crossed her arms, her resolve unshaken. You knew I loved him. You knew he was their father. And you never told me how you really felt, not until he came back. Because I was waiting, hoping. His voice broke, the raw pain of his confession echoing in the morning air. Waiting for the day you'd finally look at me the way you looked at him on that damn dance floor. Amara swallowed hard, her heart aching for his unrequited love. Chris, I love you, but not like that. Not in that way. And I'm sorry if my silence made you think I ever could. Chris looked away, defeated. Then finally, with a tight nod, he stepped back. You picked him. I picked my children's future, she said softly, a statement of fierce maternal protection and unwavering love. Chris turned, walking off down the hall without another word, his departure a sad, silent acknowledgement of his loss. Inside, Darius stood by the door, arms crossed, his face hard, having heard everything. You okay? Yeah, she sighed, the emotional exhaustion weighing heavily on her. But I don't think Chris is. Darius gave a tight nod. I won't start drama, but I'm not about to be quiet if someone threatens what we're building. He won't come back, she said, trying to reassure herself as much as him. But even as she said it, a knot twisted in her chest, a lingering apprehension about the fragile peace they were building. This difficult confrontation underscores the complex loyalties and emotional fallout that often accompany major life changes, especially when long-standing friendships are intertwined with unrequited romantic feelings. Later that week, things seemed to settle into a new, hopeful rhythm. Darius officially filed for joint legal custody. The attorney told them it could take months, but there were no contestations. Everything was moving forward, a testament to Darius's unwavering commitment and Amara's cautious trust. The triplets flourished, blossoming under the warmth of a complete family. Micah started writing in a superhero journal about his family, Darius as the brave fireman daddy, Amara as the super-strong mommy, and himself and Miles as the dynamic duo. Miles created a dance called the Daddy Shuffle, which involved a lot of dramatic hip-twisting and sound effects, a joyful expression of his bond with Darius. Malia, ever the articulate and perceptive one, walked into school one day and declared, I have a mom, a dad, and 2 emotional support brothers. Their innocent observations painted a vivid picture of their new, evolving reality. Amara and Darius had begun finding a rhythm, cooking together, alternating story times, sharing chores. It almost felt like a real home, a sanctuary built on rediscovered love and hard-won trust. But every joy came with a shadow. Diane King was not done. Her earlier threats had been a precursor to a more calculated, insidious attack. One rainy afternoon, Amara received a thick envelope from a law office. Inside was a letter with a tone colder than steel, a stark contrast to the warmth of their blossoming family. Dear Ms. Ellis, as the maternal guardian of the King legacy and estate, I am notifying you of a formal petition to review the custody agreement between my son and your children. It is our position that due to your former financial instability, absence of formal co-parenting contracts, and previous failure to notify my son of their existence, you are unfit to retain full physical custody. Consider this your notice. Diane L. King. Amara sat in the car, staring at the paper for 10 minutes, the rain outside mirroring the storm brewing within her. By the time she walked into the apartment, rain dripping off her coat, her hands were shaking, not from cold, but from pure, unadulterated fury. Darius looked up from the floor where he was helping Micah sort Legos, his casual ease instantly vanishing at the sight of her face. What happened? She tossed the letter on the counter. He read it slowly, then again, his face draining of color. She didn't, he whispered, the disbelief palpable. She did, Amara replied, her voice tight with rage. She's suing you for custody. She's suing us, Darius. He sank into a chair, his hands gripping his head, the weight of his mother's relentless malice crushing him. "I'll handle it. I'll go to her. I'll shut it down." "You can't reason with her. You tried that already. She doesn't want compromise. She wants control." "Then we fight," Darius declared, standing up, his jaw set with fierce determination. Amara stared at him, searching his eyes for any flicker of doubt. "Are you sure you're ready for that? Because this is where it gets ugly." Darius's gaze was unwavering, resolute. "I wasn't there when you needed someone to fight for you the first time. I'm not making that mistake again." And this wasn't just a legal battle, it was a profound test of their newfound family, a challenge to their right to exist as a unit. Diane's actions highlight the insidious nature of power and privilege, and the lengths some will go to maintain control over perceived assets, even when those assets are human lives. That night, after the kids were asleep, Amara watched Darius sitting at the table, quietly reviewing documents from the lawyer's office. He looked worn but focused, his mind already strategizing for the battle ahead. She walked over, wrapped her arms around him from behind, leaning into the warmth of his presence. "You okay?" "Yeah, just angry. At myself, at her, at the fact that she still thinks money gives her ownership over people's lives. You know, she's not doing this because she wants the kids," Amara said softly, her voice filled with a deep understanding of Diane's motivations. "She's doing it because she can't stand the fact that you chose us over her empire." "Then I'll show her just how permanent this choice is," he vowed, his voice firm. He stood, pulled something out of his jacket, a small velvet box. Amara's eyes widened, her heart catching in her throat. "Darius, relax," he smiled, a gentle, reassuring gesture. "I'm not proposing yet. This is something else." He opened the box. Inside was a delicate chain with 4 charms, a book, a firefighter's helmet, a heart, and 3 tiny initials. "A," he said, pointing. "For you, then M, and M for them." Amara's throat closed up, overwhelmed by the profound symbolism of the gift. He slipped it around her neck, his touch tender. "No matter what happens in court, no matter what your last name is or what hers is, this is who we are." It was a powerful, unspoken vow, a declaration that their family was defined not by external forces, but by the love and commitment they shared. The courtroom was quiet, too quiet. The thick mahogany walls and polished floors reflected more than wealth. They echoed power. Old power, the kind that moved behind closed doors in families like the Kings, families whose influence extended far beyond their financial portfolios. Amara sat at the plaintiff's table, dressed in a simple black blazer and cream blouse, her back straight, hands folded, a quiet fire behind her eyes. She was a picture of dignified defiance. Darius sat beside her, jaw tight, fingers laced together so he wouldn't shake. He had faced raging fires, collapsed buildings, and pulled lifeless bodies from smoke. But this was the hardest thing he'd ever done. This wasn't about physical bravery. It was about emotional fortitude, about fighting for the very soul of his family. Across the aisle sat Diane King, regal as ever, wrapped in a navy blue designer suit and pearls so pristine they looked carved from moonlight. Her lawyer, a sharp-jawed man in a $1,000 suit, flipped through a stack of documents with cool detachment, embodying the impersonal nature of the legal system. The judge entered. Everyone stood. "This is the custody petition hearing between Diane King and Amara Ellis, with Darius King as the father of the children in question," the bailiff announced. Amara stared forward. She wasn't afraid anymore, but she was ready to fight. The trial opened with Diane's attorney, a master of subtle manipulation, claiming that Amara had withheld Darius's children from him, thereby putting their well-being at risk by raising them in unstable conditions. He read from reports about the small one-bedroom apartment, Amara's years of financial struggle, her past-due utility notices. "It is evident that Ms. Ellis did her best," he said smoothly, a condescending acknowledgement. "But intentions are not a substitute for capability." The argument was a classic tactic, exploiting social prejudices against single mothers and poverty. Then Diane took the stand, her voice carefully modulated, her eyes shimmering with feigned concern. I only want what's best for the children. I want them to know the world they come from, the opportunities they deserve. And that world includes separating them from their mother? Amara's lawyer asked during cross-examination, cutting straight to the heart of Diane's malicious intent. Diane's smile tightened, her facade cracking. If their mother is unwilling to cooperate with family expectations, then yes. The room buzzed, a ripple of unease. Darius nearly stood up right then, his anger a hot, urgent tide. But Amara grabbed his hand under the table, a silent message. Not yet. When it was their turn, Amara took the stand. Her voice was calm but firm, imbued with the strength of a mother who had fought for everything she had. I raised my children alone, not because I wanted to, because I had to. I thought Darius had abandoned me. I never once told them he was a bad man. I told them the truth I was given. She looked straight at Diane, her gaze unwavering, a powerful indictment. Your son didn't leave us. You pushed us away. Diane blinked, her composure finally shattered. Objection! Speculation! Her attorney said, leaping to his feet. Overruled, the judge said, her gaze steady. Let her speak. Amara continued, her voice gaining strength. You didn't just lie to me. You robbed Darius of years he'll never get back. You robbed those children of their father, and now you want to steal them again, this time permanently. Her voice broke slightly, but she didn't cry. She wouldn't. I'm not perfect, but I am their home. Her testimony was a powerful defense of maternal love and resilience, a direct challenge to the patriarchal notions of family ownership. Then came Darius. He rose slowly, his hands no longer trembling as he took the stand, his firefighter's poise now serving him in a different kind of battle. I didn't know I had kids, he said simply, his voice resonating with sincerity. If I had, this would be a different story, but I'm not here to rewrite the past. I'm here to fight for the future. He looked at his mother, his gaze a mix of sadness and steel. When I found out, I came back. Not just for a visit, not just for a birthday. I moved in, I stayed, I gave up the trust fund, the family company, every single dollar I inherited. Why? The judge asked, her voice intrigued. Darius looked to Amara, then toward the hallway door, where the triplets sat with a court-appointed advocate just outside the room, their innocent presence a powerful, silent testament. Because no amount of money matters if I'm not there when they lose their first tooth or scrape their knee or have a nightmare. I don't want to be a man who visits his children. I want to be the man they run to. His words were a profound declaration of his values, a complete rejection of his family's materialistic definition of success in favor of true, heartfelt connection. At the end of the hearing, the judge took a deep breath, her voice clear and resonant. This is an unusual case, she said. Not a custody battle between mother and father, but between mother and grandmother. A grandmother with resources, reputation, legacy. Diane's lips curled in satisfaction, certain of her victory. But legacy doesn't raise children. Her smile froze, her eyes wide with shock. Love does, stability does, and this court finds that Ms. Ellis has provided both on her own. And now, with Mr. King's full involvement, this family is not fractured. It's healing. Amara gripped Darius's hand, tears blurring her vision, a silent acknowledgement of their hard-won victory. The court rules in favor of Ms. Ellis. Full physical custody remains with the mother. Mr. Darius King will share legal custody. All petitions for extended visitation or guardianship filed by Ms. Diane King are denied. This hearing is adjourned. Diane gasped softly. It was the first time anyone had heard her sound human in a long, long time, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. This judgment is a powerful affirmation of the idea that true parenthood is defined by presence, love, and sacrifice, not by wealth or social standing. Outside the courtroom, Amara burst into tears as soon as the doors closed, not out of fear, but release, a profound unburdening. Darius pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, his own relief palpable. "You did it," he whispered. "We did," she said back, their voices a duet of triumph and exhaustion. Their lawyer gave a thumbs up and left them to celebrate, but before they could take 2 steps, a small voice behind them said, "Mommy, Daddy!" They turned. The triplets ran full speed toward them, tuxedo pants and patent shoes sliding across the courthouse floor, their joy uncontainable. Malia got there first, wrapping her arms around Amara's legs. "Did we win?" Darius knelt, sweeping all three of them into a bear hug, his voice thick with emotion. "You always win," he whispered. That evening, the apartment was filled with laughter and music, a celebration of their hard-won peace. Takeout boxes covered the coffee table. The kids wore pajamas and paper crowns, symbols of their royalty within this new kingdom of love. Malia made a champion sash for her mom out of glitter glue and tulle. Micah wore one that said, "King of Family Court," and Miles taped construction paper wings to his back and declared himself Guardian Lawyer Angel, their innocent creativity a testament to their vibrant spirits. Amara finally collapsed onto the couch, her legs tucked under her, a glass of wine in hand, utterly exhausted but profoundly content. Darius sat beside her, equally exhausted but smiling, his eyes filled with a peace he hadn't known in years. "So what now?" he asked, his voice soft, hinting at the next chapter. She looked around at the vibrant chaos, the warmth, the love. "Now we live. No more running, no more court dates, no more fear." He nodded, then leaned close, his voice low, his eyes filled with a deeper intention. "What if I said, I don't just want to live with you, I want to build everything with you, forever?" Her eyes met his, sparkling with newfound hope and an undeniable connection. "I'd say you're about to propose without a ring again." He reached into his hoodie pocket, a playful smirk on his face. This time there was a ring, simple, elegant, with 3 tiny stones beside the main diamond. "One for each of them," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "You serious?" "Dead serious." Amara looked at the ring, then at the man who had crawled through fire, literal and emotional, to be here, to fight for her, for them. She didn't cry, she just whispered, "Yes." And for the first time in years, everything felt whole, complete, and utterly right. The journey, fraught with pain and betrayal, had finally led them home. This story, friends, is a powerful testament to the multifaceted nature of truth, resilience, and the enduring power of unconditional love. It's a narrative that forces us to ask ourselves, what truly defines a family? Is it merely blood? Or is it the unwavering commitment to show up, to fight, and to love, even when the past is riddled with pain and the future is uncertain? Darius's journey reminds us that true heroism extends beyond grand rescues. It lies in the courage to confront one's own ignorance, to dismantle the lies that have shaped your life, and to step into a role that demands immense sacrifice and unwavering presence. His decision to relinquish wealth and privilege for the sake of his children and the woman he loves is a profound statement against materialism and a powerful affirmation of genuine human connection. It teaches us that redemption is not a single act, but an ongoing process of consistent effort, vulnerability, and sustained commitment. Amara's story is a beacon of resilience. She faced unimaginable betrayal, the harsh realities of single motherhood, and the insidious prejudices of class. Yet she never broke. She built a loving, stable home for her children, demonstrating a strength that often goes unseen and unacknowledged in society. Her eventual decision to open her heart to Darius, after demanding he prove his worth, teaches us about the importance of setting boundaries, demanding respect, and embracing the terrifying possibility of happiness after profound pain. Her journey underscores the truth that healing is not linear, and forgiveness is a complex process that unfolds over time, often at the pace of the wounded. And the triplets, Micah, Miles, and Malia, they are the innocent catalysts, the living embodiment of the truth. Their intuitive connection to Darius, their unwavering desire for a real family, reminds us of the innate wisdom of children, their ability to cut through adult complexities and identify authentic love. They teach us that sometimes the simplest wishes are the most profound, and that love, when it truly shows up, can mend even the deepest wounds. This tale also offers a sobering look at the destructive power of manipulation and classism, personified by Diane King. Her actions serve as a cautionary tale about the lengths to which some will go to protect their perceived legacy, even if it means tearing families apart and inflicting irreparable damage. It reminds us to question narratives, to seek truth, and to recognize the subtle ways power and prejudice can influence personal lives. Ultimately, this story is a celebration of what it means to build a family, not just biologically, but through shared experiences, through unwavering presence, and through the courageous choice to love. It's about finding hope in the ashes of betrayal, forging unbreakable bonds in the face of adversity, and understanding that true wealth lies not in what you inherit, but in the love you give and receive. The journey of Amara, Darius, and their incredible children is a powerful reminder. Even when fate throws its cruelest twists and lies threaten to consume everything, the human spirit, fueled by love and a fierce commitment to truth, can always find its way home. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what lessons you took away from Amara and Darius's incredible fight for their family.